Hey everybody, it's Missy again. Thanks for joining me today. I'm back with a new layout for the Paige Evans design team, and once again I'm using the new Pick Me Up collection. And I'm going to start this layout with one of the tiny little 2x2 paper pads from Pick Me Up. This is the one with all the different pattern swatches. And my idea for this was to cut a letter out of each of the different squares to create a really big title for a layout. And I did this once before with one of Paige's other collections with the 2x2 paper pad, and I think this is a fantastic idea for a way to use these. They're little 2x2 pieces of paper, and there's a ton of patterns, a ton of colors, and I'm not going to use my Cameo for this. I'm just going to hand draw some letters, and I'm going to do a different letter on each paper and then just fussy cut it out and try to measure the next letter up next to the first letter so I can kind of get everything the same size. And I was making a layout the other day for my Hip Kit Club layout, and I came across a die cut. I think it was from Pink Fresh Studio. It was something in the kits, and it had a quote on it that I just fell in love with, and the quote was, "Forever is composed of nows." And I thought, that is the coolest quote. I'd never heard that before. And I thought, I've got to make a layout with that as a main title. And so that's what I'm going to do today. And I'm just going to take some time and cut out all the letters. So this is a good way to do this if you don't have a Cameo or a Cricut. And so there are the letters and everything's spelled out. And that's the picture that I'm going to use as of now. I do wind up changing it. I thought I was going to use this one because it's got a lot of that bright aqua green color, and I've got that color going on in some of those letters, but I do wind up changing my mind as I go. But for now, let's just go with it. So this is clear gesso that I'm using here, and this is smooth white basil marshmallow cardstock. And the clear gesso is kind of gritty, and I really like that because it gives a really cool texture. But it's going to protect the cardstock, and it's going to allow me to blend and smudge really, really easily. So I thought I would just create some texture and interest on the background. So I pulled out a stencil. It's kind of like a tree trunk type thing, but I've turned it horizontally, and I'm just using it to create some random lines on the background. And I'm using some of the Distress Oxides in Picked Raspberry and Fossilized Amber, and it's like a deep golden yellow color. And then I'm going to do the same color scheme with the packaging, and it's the same ink. I just smushed it down onto some plastic, spritzed it with water, and then it basically turns into a watercolor, and you can just smush it down. These oxides are so versatile. They are amazing. I am loving playing with these lately. And since I have the gesso on the paper, you can see how the liquid's just pooling up, and it smudges and blends. It doesn't dry right away, and it doesn't soak right through the paper. And so that's why I love using gesso. And I don't always use gesso, but if I know I'm going to be using a lot of liquid and I want it to blend and just look really pretty mixed with the color next to it, then the gesso is the way to go. So I thought I would add in some blue. This is called Blue Jeans, and I wind up kind of covering this up. There is a dark navy blue color in this collection, but for whatever reason, this color, it wasn't the same, and I didn't like this blue as much once I started putting everything back on, so I'm going to make it more of an aqua color. And I do this a lot where I make my background, and if I don't like it, I kind of go back over it with some gesso again, and that's the beauty of mixed media. It's supposed to look messy, and it's okay if you mess up, because you can just kind of cover it up with gesso or paint, or just go back over it. And so when I bring that pool picture back, you can see that the blues are totally different, and it just didn't, I don't know, it wasn't jiving in my mind like I wanted it to. So to test everything out, I'm going to bring the letters back and see what it looks like so far. And yeah, I just need more of that aqua color. And so that's what I'm going to do here. This is one of my shimmer sprays, and it's called Well Blue Me Down. And I'm just going to go back over the blues and sort of make it a little more aqua here. I'm going to add some water. And again, the gesso is allowing me to put all this water on this paper, and it's not going to tear it. It's not going to really make it wrinkle. It is going to warp slightly just because you are adding water to paper, but nothing that's too hard to flatten out. So it's really not a big deal. And I like the way that looks a lot better. So I changed my picture. I decided to go with black and white just because I had so many colors going on, and I took a long break, and when I came back, I tried this black and white picture over it, and I just liked it better, and so that's what I'm going to go with. And the pool picture probably would have looked good too, but I don't know, sometimes another type of picture is just jumping out at me, and so that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to lightly stick all of these letters down. I want to make sure they're nice and straight, so I've got my ruler there, and I'm going to wind up stitching through all of these 3 lines of words here with my sewing machine. And I just did a straight simple stitch there with white, and so the title is there, it's not moving. And the good thing about this kind of design is I only have so many spaces now to put my picture and embellishments, because the top half of the layout is pretty much done, and so it's going to limit what else I can do. Now, I haven't used the Pick Me Up haberdashery, I think that's the funniest word, I love that, set here, and so it's a little collection of random things. There are buttons, sequins, little like plastic flowers and butterflies, epoxy stickers, and they all have adhesive on the back. And so I'm just going to add a couple of those little things to some of the bigger letters, and then I'm going to use some tissue paper. This is just regular gift wrap tissue paper. I like to add that as a subtle, messy layer behind my picture. It just sort of adds a little more of a layer of separation behind everything whenever I go to layer behind the picture. This is paper 5, and I wanted to use a part of it as a layer behind the tissue paper, and I'm going to try to get the blues here. So I've got a royal blue, a light blue, and then that dark blue that's almost black at the bottom. Since I've got a lot of pink going on, I'm going to bring in some of the darker colors now. And here's the fun part. It's fun, but it's also stressful because everything is so cute. And I'm going through the rub-ons, I'm going through the chipboard pieces, the chipboard stickers rather, some of the ephemera die cuts, the other 2x2 paper pad which has phrases in it, and I'm going to use this one. It says, "You're my favorite pick-me-up." I think that's so cute, but I'm going to trim it down to make it just a little bit smaller because I don't want to really use anything huge down here at the bottom, since the title is so big and it's busy. You know, it's got all this color and all this pattern, and my picture's kind of big too, so I don't want to make the bottom half of the layout overly busy, and I don't want to do anything that's going to take away from the picture. And I feel like making the picture black and white helps it to stand out against all the color. Now, I just was looking for a reason to use these rub-ons because they're so awesome, they're so cute. I'm going to use this row of little X's, and it just kind of looks like stitching, and I'm going to add that at the top. And I've said this before, these rub-ons are fantastic. They rub on so smoothly, and they go over mixed media. You saw me add all that paint and the gesso, and they rub on perfectly, so that does not even affect those. This is the ephemera die cuts, and I'm just going to start to audition things here and see what I want to add. I'm going to use part of this frame here just to add a pop of pink, just a slight pop of pink over to the right. And yeah, I want to use more rub-ons. I love the rub-ons. I was just looking for rub-ons to use, and I'm going to use this little flower cluster here, right there, and I'm just going to rub it right onto the paper. And if there's ever a time where you don't know where you want to put a rub-on, but you know you want to use it, rub it onto some white cardstock and then cut it out. And then you can move it around the page and use it as an embellishment. And so that way you're not committed to sticking it down to the background. Because once you stick it down or rub it on, you know, you're not moving it. And so it's, you know, just a personal preference and depends on what you're doing. I cut the little frame off around that word that says love. And I'm going to use that at the bottom here just for a little bit of detail. And I cut it in half, so I'm going to have 2 little bits down there. I wish there were more rub-ons and more collections because they're so fun. Now, I stitched that little piece on the side there and let the strings kind of hang down a little bit. And then I'm going to use some adhesive foam behind my picture just to raise it up off the page a little bit, add some dimension. And then this is paper number 2, and I'm going to fussy cut 1 flower cluster, and I'm going to use that over on the right. And it kind of pulls in all the colors that I used in the letters. And I'm going to layer it right on top of the picture, and I feel like that's enough on top of the picture. I've got 3 things on top of the picture. That's plenty, but I still don't feel like it's too busy. I don't feel like it's taking away from the picture. These are the puffy stickers. I've already used some of them. I'm going to use that little blue bow, some of the little moths, and just kind of stick little bits and pieces here and there. I'm pretty much finished with the big embellishments here. I'm going to soften up some of the edges of the pink there. It was just bugging me for whatever reason, so I just went over a little bit of that with some gesso, and I used the white gesso for that because it's going to kind of help me fade it out. And then I'm going to add in some thread. I've got some navy blue and then some of the darker pink color. And again, I've said this a million times, I have no idea why I use the thread. I just like it. I like the messy factor of it. I like the color. I love the texture. It just kind of adds to the messy look of the background. Like, you know, just thread just fell out of the sky and landed on my page. Yeah, that's not realistic, I know, but it makes sense in my brain. Anyway, I'm almost finished. I'm going to add a little bit of journaling down underneath the picture. And that's a Sharpie, fine tip Sharpie. And then I'm going to go around and create a little bit of a shadow effect around all the letters. It's just going to make them a little more crisp and make them stand off the page a little bit more. And I do add the date down at the bottom, and that is it. That's the final layout. I love how this turned out. The colors are so much fun. And all of this basically came from a little 2x2 paper pad. And so I didn't use much pattern paper, the big ones, at all. So definitely check out the little 2x2 paper pads because you can actually do quite a bit. You could punch shapes out of them. You could do a grid design, lots of different ideas there. So I hope this gave you something to think about in your next layout, maybe some fun idea to try. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the products or any of the techniques or the mixed media, anything at all. And I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.